Hi, my name is Madeline, and I'm an artist who's always wanted to sell my own prints from home, but I just didn't really know what to do or how to do it, and I never set it up before. So today I wanted to make this video to document my process of setting up my own Etsy shop to sell my art prints from home, how I did it, what I did, and maybe some advice if you wanted to do it too. If you've ever wanted to set up your own Etsy shop to sell your own art prints from home, but you've been intimidated, or you didn't know how, or you've never used Etsy before, or you don't have a printer, or yada 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 yada, that's okay, because I was literally in the same boat. I was intimidated and I felt like a really big project that was kind of scary to me, but I went ahead and did it, and it really was not that bad. Really not that scary, and I really think you could do it too. So if you keep watching throughout this video, I'm just gonna share my process, what I did, what I learned, what I know, and hopefully inspire you or teach you something, or just be able to help in some way of you setting up your own art shop, because it's really not that hard. I really think about anyone could do it, and it's really fulfilling to be able to sell your own art prints from home. So let's get on with my process and how I set up my own Etsy shop to sell my art prints from home. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna wanna do, if you haven't already, is create your Etsy account. And I know that there's a bunch of ways to sell art from home. You could have your own shop or use a service that's not Etsy, but Etsy is what I use and what I'm gonna focus on in this video. Now, I'm not entirely new to Etsy, and I've actually had Etsy accounts in the past, but I really appreciate a fresh start. I wanted to go ahead and start from scratch and make a completely new Etsy account. So that is exactly what I did. I put in my email, my information, my name, address, all that good stuff. Etsy had tons of questions for me. They wanted to see my ID. I think they want to prove that I'm a real person. One thing that I didn't realize or didn't know about Etsy is that apparently now there's a $29 fee to create an Etsy account, which when I made my first initial Etsy account, I don't remember that being a thing, but it's okay. It's okay. I'll get over it. It's an investment. It's fine. I just thought I'd let you know. Also, when creating an Etsy account, it wanted me to go ahead and make a listing of something to sell on. And at the time, I didn't have my pictures taken for my listings or any of that ready. So I just quickly filled that in with like some random information and didn't publish it, and just deleted that listing later. So if that's what you're doing, if you're setting up an account and you don't have anything to sell yet, you can go ahead and fill it in with baloney information and delete it later. Yeah, my experience setting up my Etsy shop was really smooth. I really like Etsy. I like the way it's laid out, and I didn't really run into any issues when creating my store. So for my business, I want to sell my art prints from home. That's how I want to start. And for the purposes of this video, that's what I'm going to talk about, the process of selling art prints. But of course, you can sell stickers, keychains, clay. It doesn't just have to be prints, but I'm gonna specifically talk about prints because that's what I'm selling in my shop. So, if you want to sell your art prints from home, you're gonna need to have a way to get your art prints. There's many ways that you can do this. You can order through a third-party supplier in bulk who will ship them to you, and then you can put it on Etsy and sell it to people. Or there's the option of doing a drop shipping company like Printify, who, when someone makes an order, Printify produces the product and sends the product. You never have to actually handle your own prints. It's all done by a print-on-demand company like Printify. And then there's the third option, which is what I do, and I will explain more. It's to have your own printer and to print your prints yourself. Recently, I purchased a Canon printer. I got it on Black Friday on sale. I finally caved, and I just went ahead and bought one. I haven't had this printer for very long, and I really haven't printed that much off of it. So I feel like I can't really give a comprehensive review on the printer so far. However, that being said, I have had no problems so far with this print. I think that the quality has been beautiful, and it's been able to give me some really vivid colors and just high quality prints. It was better than I even thought that it was going to be. Like I said, I'm not entirely new to selling on Etsy. I have had a shop in the past, and I've actually done both of the other methods. I've used Printify, and I have ordered prints in bulk online and have them shipped to me, and then, well, I was supposed to ship them out, but nobody ever bought any, so I didn't ever have to actually do that. But that was the plan. Okay, so yeah, I've had experience with all three, and I just really feel strongly that having your own printer is really kind of the best option for selling art prints on Etsy. I know that if you don't already have a high quality photo printer, the idea of buying one can be like really intimidating. And I also know that the entry point feels really steep, especially if you haven't made a lot of money so far selling your art at home, because it really isn't realistic to just expect everyone to be able to afford a printer. However, if you are able to, I highly recommend it. I know that it's intimidating and I know that it has kind of a steep entry point price. However, I feel like it's a good investment into your business if you really plan on selling your prints on Etsy and taking it seriously. And to me, it's important to explain why I believe it's the best option. Reason number one, I think that you should have your own printer is that you can print in bulk if you'd like, but also you have the option just to print a singular print every time one is ordered. Like I said, in the past, I've purchased prints from a supplier for me to sell, but I didn't sell any. And I spent all that money to order prints to my house, and then I didn't make any money. Whereas if you have your own printer, you can upload a listing to Etsy and you really don't even have to print anything. You don't even have to make any initial investment. You can take a design and put it on Etsy without any cost. If you didn't have your own printer, now if you're choosing to do print on demand, again, you don't have to worry about this, but then you never get to have the physical product. I feel like you lose that aspect of personalization and really making the product your own. And so that being said, that's the first reason why I think it's a better idea to have your own printer and print from home. The second reason why I think you should have your own printer and print your own prints from home, I've said the word print like 1,000 times. The second reason, your cost per print is going to be relatively low compared to the other options. When I do the math, for me to print an 8x10 sheet of paper in full color, it only comes out to about $1 per print. Whereas if I were to order prints online, it would come out to $2 or $3 per print, and then I would have to ship them to my house. And you have to order in bulk, usually minimum 5 or 10, depending on what supplier you use. And so that initial cost, again, not knowing if you're even going to be able to sell these designs, because if you are a beginner like me, you don't really know which of your designs are gonna sell well. There's a lot less risk in the price, and then the price is just lower per sheet compared to having your prints outsourced. This might be a personal preference because I find printing on high quality photo paper meets my needs exactly. If you're wanting to get canvas prints or higher quality prints that you wouldn't be able to get with an affordable photo printer or one that you can afford, it would make sense to outsource your prints. However, the way that I chose to do it, a Canon photo printer will work just fine. Third reason why I recommend having your own printer and making your art prints from home is that you don't have to wait for them to be shipped to you before you can even make a listing or post them on Etsy. If you're like me and you're new to this and you haven't really sold that much, it can be kind of annoying, especially if you're trying to make a print for a holiday, or maybe you posted something on Instagram and all of a sudden you got a bunch of likes and a bunch of attention that you're not used to getting, and people are asking, does this have a print? Will this be a print? And if you've been on social media, you understand that when the attention is there, it's there, and it could fizzle out super quickly. So it's really convenient to have a way to say, yes, I do have prints available, because that day you can upload your design to Photoshop and have it printed out in a high quality print you can photograph and have it on your Etsy by the end of the day, instead of waiting to send your print to a manufacturer and then getting a test back from a manufacturer and then approving the test and then having them manufacture them all and ship them to you. Having your own printer just eliminates all those middle steps, so it feels like you have more control over what you print. You can get items in your shop a lot quicker. And so while this is not an entirely exhaustive list on pros of having your own printer and printing your art from home, I do think those are a few key points to keep in mind when deciding if you're gonna buy your own printer. And so while having your own printer carries a pretty steep starting up price, I do believe in the end it's worth it. And at least it's what I chose to do. It's a personal preference thing, but you know, this video is about my experience and that's what I chose to do. choose the best option for you. After having established I was going to use my own printer to make my art prints, now came the fun part. I got to actually print my artwork. Something about having a physical copy of your art in your hands, it's just so satisfying. There's really nothing like taking something you made digitally and then being able to hold it in real life. Maybe that's just a graphic designer thing, I don't know. For my initial shop launch, I chose to take about 6 designs that I've made, some of my favorites and ones that have been more popular on my social medias, and use those as my initial first prints. But again, what's really nice about having your own printer is I don't have to worry too much about if the designs that I chose are even going to sell well, because I don't have to print them if nobody buys them. So I'm good. So after selecting my designs, I took them over into Photoshop to do a few minor edits before I actually started printing them. If you've had any experience printing art, whether for a university class or you have your own art printer, you know that naturally when you print something, the color just comes out a little bit dimmer, a little bit duller than you were looking at on your laptop. Because your laptop or your screen, it's light, it's like glowing, it's like there's light emitting from it. So naturally everything looks brighter on a screen than it will when you print it out. So to try to match my prints as realistically as I could to their digital counterparts, I went ahead and added a little bit of either a saturation or brightness effect to each of them, just to kind of get them filtered to a way that I knew that when I printed it, it would come out more accurate to the design as it can be seen on my laptop. Again, this is a personal preference thing and it might take a little bit of troubleshooting. There's a few prints where I had to print and then reprint and then reprint until I got the colors the way that I wanted them. But again, it's your art, feel free to do this. You don't have to do it, just figure out what works best for you. This is just what I think works best for me and what I did. So I did that for each of my 6 designs that I was planning on selling. And then I took the files and I finally got to print them. To go ahead and get a physical print, make sure that you print it correctly, that it's laid out correctly, that all your settings are right. I printed 1 of each, and I recommend for anyone else to do before you list anything. Like, make sure that you can print it right. Because I've had a lot of bad experiences with printing at my university, and you really want to just make sure you can get it right. And if you know, and you've dealt with printers, you know, but sometimes they don't make sense. So it's really important just to make sure that you can get it right before you go ahead and list it on your Etsy. But after that, I got to move on to taking the photos for my listings. To make listings on Etsy, you're gonna need photos to put on your listings. That's how it works. You can really use whatever camera you want. I think that an iPhone camera would work fine. I personally used my camera, but again, an iPhone would work just fine. The most important thing to keep in mind, and that I kept in mind when taking my photos, is that I'm trying to get really, really visually appealing images. Because on Etsy, that's how people are going to see your art. That's how people are going to click on the listing. That's how you're going to get attention, and that's how you're going to get sales. You want your art to look appealing. The photos are what determines if people even click on your shop at all. So good photos are actually, in my opinion, like crucial to having a good Etsy shop. I have a quick list of things that I think are important to keep in mind when taking photos of your prints for Etsy. The first key point is that lighting is so important. Good lighting will either make or break your photo. You have to make sure that your set is well lit. There are no harsh shadows or super bright highlights. I recommend shooting by a window in the middle of the day, and you'll also want to use some of your own artificial lighting if you can. Use whatever you have. I have a ring light, which, you know, isn't like the best, but it's better than nothing. Just make sure that your photos are as well lit as you possibly can get them. And you want the lighting to appear bright and inviting. Again, this could be a personal preference thing. Maybe your mood for your art is super dark and that's totally the vibe you want, and that is so fine. Like, I'm not saying to not do that if you believe that'll work better for you, but in most cases, I feel like you're gonna wanna aim for more of a bright, welcoming, inviting lighting. A second tip I have for taking good photos is to make sure you have an appealing backdrop. A plain white sheet is fine. And when taking my photos, I made sure to get a still of all of my prints on a plain white background. But I also made sure to get plenty of pictures of my prints in an environment. You want your photos to help you communicate a mood. So by creating your own setting with other like aesthetic little objects, plants, books, I just use things that I have around my house that I think are like visually appealing and like go with the vibes that I'm looking for. But use those to create more of a set that gives more personality and context to your art. You want to create like a feeling, you know what I mean? And thirdly, a good tip for making sure you have good photos is to really highlight the quality of your art print. Really make sure to show off. If it's glossy, use your photos to show that it's glossy. If it's matte, use your photos to show that it's matte. You'll also want to put all of this in the description, but it's important to keep in mind, show, don't tell. Obviously you can still tell because you're trying to sell a product, but be able to show the quality of your art via the photos that you take. If your prints have texture or you used a textured medium or paper, go ahead and take photos that demonstrate that and can show that, because you might have the piece of art and you know what it looks like and feels like when you hold it and you look at it and you shine it in the sun, but the people looking at your Etsy shop don't. So it's important that you take photos that can clearly communicate that. And again, how you take photos is completely up to you, personal preference thing. These are just tips that I find really helpful and that I try to keep in mind and that I think will really benefit your art print listings on your own Etsy shop. I made my prints, I took my photos, I edited my photos, and then it was time to actually make my listings. So with the photos that I took, I went ahead and used Photoshop just to make some general edits. I recommend it. Obviously you don't have to, but I took my photos and I made my Etsy listings. Again, I think Etsy is a really good selling platform, and I think that making your listings is super straightforward. Follow the instructions, answer the questions. That's what I did. And I used my high quality photos I just took with my helpful tips and tricks, and I made my listings. I recommend really taking advantage of like the hashtag filter when making your listings, because that's how you're going to get exposure on Etsy, and the more keywords you can type in that are like even generally kind of related to your prints, the more people Etsy will show your print to, and then the more likely you are to get sales. So please utilize the hashtag filter. And also make sure your description uses keywords. Use your description to really include the important information also about your prints: size, dimensions, weight, type of paper, anything that a buyer would want to know. When you make your listings, you totally have the option to just go ahead and upload them immediately to Etsy. However, I was planning on doing a shop launch on a day in the future, so I just went ahead and saved my listings and I didn't publish them until I was ready, and it was the date of my shop launch. So when you produce your own prints at home, you're gonna need a way to ship them. I used Amazon to buy all the products that I'm gonna use to ship my art. Everything is relatively inexpensive. So I'll take my print, and then I have 2 pieces of chipboard, which is just kind of like a heavy cardstock type paper, and I put the print in between the chipboard so that it doesn't bend. I take that and I place it in a clear plastic sleeve just to protect it and hold it all together. I seal it, and finally I put that clear plastic sleeve inside of a stiff mailer envelope. Depending on the size of your prints, you may be able to do something smaller scale, larger scale. I feel like for like generic sizing, like letter, 8x10 is what I do, 5x7. This method would work great for shipping prints. You can actually do multiple prints at the same time. Again, it's what I do. I want to personalize the process a little bit more in the future. Add maybe stamps or stickers or fun tape, but right now this is what I have and this is what works for me. And so finally, I had my prints made, photos taken, listings ready to be uploaded, packaging all sorted and taken care of. So then I really wanted to work on getting the word out about my launch. I used my Instagram and TikTok to tease a launch a few days before. This wasn't a super big launch, and again, I don't have a big following, so I really only teased like 3 or 4 days prior. I haven't launched the shop as of filming this video, but as of posting it, it will be launched. So I can't really say what I posted on the day of because I don't have that planned yet, but it'll be cool. So I recommend trying to use your following. Don't just upload your art prints to Etsy and then be like, by the way guys, I have an Etsy. Like, try to build up excitement if you can. Again, it depends on the size of your following, or if you're just kind of starting out like me, maybe you don't have a huge following, and I posted like I did. I love doing that. Posting like people actually care. It's fun. But finally, whenever you're ready, time to launch your shop. and I launched my shop. I haven't yet, but you know what I mean. I'm excited for it. I'm excited. At this point, I would say sit back, relax, take in the fruit of your labor, but hopefully you'll be so busy with sales that there's no time to relax. I'm kidding. But I really do hope that if you decide to make an Etsy shop and sell your prints online from home, that it really goes well for you. I really hope that you're able to get a lot of sales. If you've ever felt like you want to make an Etsy shop for your prints, I really hope this video was able to help, maybe answer a few questions or give a few pointers. If there's any other questions that you have about the process or literally anything, feel free to ask. I would love to answer. I want to make more videos in the future, hopefully more videos about my Etsy. I would love in the future to make like a check-in video like, oh, this is how it's going, and update the process of how my Etsy shop is going. If there's anything you want to hear me elaborate on, I would love to. Just let me know. Feel free to do all of the like, commenting, subscribing jazz. It would really help out. I'm trying to obviously grow as an artist and grow my community, so it would be super cool if you stuck around, because I'll probably make more videos like this. Again, thank you so much for watching. By the time you're watching this, my shop will be live. If you're interested in that, I'll have it linked below. Feel free to buy an epic print if you'd like. But yeah, I will see you in the next one.